tonight, when you reach for the light switch, watch what your hand does. It moves a little faster than it needs to. Your fingers find the switch before your eyes do. And in the half second between darkness and light, something inside you goes quiet, then relaxes. You don't decide to feel that relief. It arrives on its own. You think you're a grown adult who simply prefers the lights on. You're not. You are carrying a 300-million-year-old alarm system, and every night it still switches on. Let me show you where it came from. Start with a simple fact about your body. You are a daytime animal. Your eyes are built for the sun, and only for the sun. Look at the numbers. The human eye holds around 120 million rod cells, the ones that work in dim light, and only about 6 million cone cells, the ones that give you sharp detail and color. That sounds like a lot of rods. It isn't enough. Compared to a true night hunter, your night vision is almost a joke. A cat, an owl, a leopard, they own the dark. You don't. When the sun goes, your single greatest sense collapses. You lose color first, then edges, then depth. Within minutes, you are standing in a world you can barely read, surrounded by creatures who read it perfectly. Now ask yourself one honest question. If you were designing a mind for an animal like that, what would you install for the night? You'd install fear, because fear, for most of your history, was not a weakness. It was the plan. Go back with me. Not a few hundred years, millions. For most of our ancestors' existence, humans were not the top of the food chain. We were somewhere in the middle. We were meat. Anthropologists Robert Sussman and Donna Hart spent years assembling the evidence for this, and they gathered it into a book with a title that should stop you cold. They called it Man the Hunted. Their argument is simple and brutal. For millions of years, our ancestors were prey more often than they were predators. And if you doubt it, there is a child who can prove it. In 1924, in South Africa, a fossil skull was found in a limestone quarry near a place called Taung. A young anatomist named Raymond Dart studied it and realized he was looking at something new. A small child, an early human ancestor we now call Australopithecus africanus. The Taung child, roughly 3 years old at death, one of the most important fossils ever discovered. For decades, people assumed this little ancestor lived and died among hunters. Then scientists looked closer. In the 2000s, researchers Lee Berger and Scott McGraw examined the skull again, and they compared its damage to something specific. They compared it to the bones of monkeys killed by crowned eagles in the Thai forest of Ivory Coast. The crowned eagle is a monster of a bird, powerful enough to snatch a small primate off the ground and carry it into the trees. And when Berger and McGraw looked at the Taung child's eye sockets, they found puncture marks, small, precise gouges at the base of the orbit, the same marks an eagle leaves when it drives its talons into a skull to pull the eye. That child did not die of old age. That child was hunted from the sky, and around the skull, the site was littered with the bones of other small animals, exactly the kind of collection a bird of prey leaves behind. This is your family. This is where you come from. Not the hunter at the top of the world, the small, soft, slow thing that other animals. And now think about when most of that hunting happened. At night, the big cats that shared our ancestors' world were built for darkness. There was a predator called Dinophilis. Scientists sometimes call it the false saber-tooth. It was not the biggest cat that ever lived, but its teeth were short, thick, and strong, and it hunted in exactly the environments our ancestors lived in, from forest to open ground. At sites like Swartkrans in South Africa, the bones tell a grim story. Early humans were on the menu. Leopards, saber-tooths, hyenas. When the light failed, they came alive, and we went blind. So picture your ancestor. The sun is gone. You cannot see. You cannot climb well in the dark. You cannot run from what you cannot see. And every sound in the black could be the last sound you ever hear. What keeps that ancestor alive long enough to become you? Not muscle, not speed, fear. The ones who felt nothing in the dark wandered, slept in the open, ignored the noise in the grass. They died young. They didn't have children. Their calm, their comfort, their bravery in the dark, all of it died with them. The ones who felt a cold spike of dread the moment the light died. The ones who froze, who hid, who kept their backs to the fire and their eyes on the black. Those ones survived, and they passed that dread down. Generation after generation, the calm ones were removed, and the frightened ones remained. You are the descendant of the frightened one. Every single one of your ancestors, without exception, lived long enough to reproduce, and a huge number of them managed it by being afraid of the dark. That fear is not a flaw in you. It is the reason you exist. Now let me take you inside your own head, because the machinery is still there, and we can point to it. Deep in your brain sit two small clusters of cells, one on each side, shaped a little like almonds. They're called the amygdala. The neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent his career mapping what they do, and what he found is that the amygdala is your brain's threat detector. It decides, faster than thought, whether something is dangerous. And here is the part that matters for the dark. Ledoux described two roads that information can take when a threat appears. There's the slow road, up through the thinking part of your brain, where you carefully identify what you're looking at. And there's the fast road, a shortcut, signals racing from your senses straight to the amygdala, bypassing conscious thought entirely. Modern brain imaging has now traced this shortcut in living human brains. Researchers have followed a pathway that runs from the superior colliculus through a relay station called the pulvinar and into the amygdala, a low road. It reacts to threat before you even know what you saw. This is why you can jump at a shadow before you've decided it's nothing. The jump comes first. The explanation comes second. Your body has already reacted while your reasoning mind is still catching up. And in the dark, that fast road has almost nothing to work with. No color, no detail, no clear shapes. So it does the only safe thing it knows. It fills the emptiness with threat. It assumes the worst, because for a few million years, assuming the worst in the dark was the difference between waking up and not. There's a name for this logic, and it's beautiful once you understand it. The evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nesse calls it the smoke detector principle. Think about the smoke alarm in your home. It goes off when you burn toast. It goes off for steam from the shower. It is wrong, loudly and annoyingly wrong, almost every single time, and you keep it anyway. Why? Because the cost of 100 false alarms is a little irritation. The cost of one missed fire is everything. Your fear works the same way. Your brain would rather scare you 1,000 times over nothing than fail to scare you the one time something is really there. A false alarm costs you a racing heart and a sleepless minute. A missed alarm, once in the wrong dark, costs you your life. So evolution set the dial to jumpy on purpose. Every time you freeze at a sound in the dark, and it turns out to be nothing, that is not your brain malfunction. That is your brain working exactly as designed. It is a smoke detector doing its job. And notice what you're actually afraid of. It is not the darkness itself. Darkness cannot hurt you. What you fear is what the darkness hides. You fear the loss of information. You are an animal that survives by seeing. And the dark is the state where seeing fails. Your fear of the dark is really a fear of not knowing, of the thing that might be there, that you cannot check, that you cannot rule out. Some researchers think this reaches even deeper than predators. The anthropologist Lynn Isbell has argued in her book, The Fruit, the Tree, and the Serpent, that a specific threat helped shape primate eyes in the first place. Snakes. She suggests that the constant danger of snakes, hidden, silent, low to the ground, pushed our ancestors to evolve unusually sharp, fast vision for spotting hidden danger. And experiments back a piece of this up. Both monkeys and human infants spot images of snakes faster than they spot harmless objects. The threat detector comes preloaded before you've learned anything at all. Which brings us to the second great turning point in this story. Because our ancestors did not just sit in the dark and shake. They found an answer. They found fire. Deep inside Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, scientists led by Francesco Berna found tiny traces of ancient burning, charred bits of bone, ash from plants, and the dating pushed the controlled use of fire back to around 1 million years ago, likely made by Homo erectus, an ancestor from long before our own species existed. Newer work at the same cave pushes the hints even further back. Stop and feel what fire actually did. For the first time, our ancestors could push back the night, a circle of light in an ocean of black. Predators that had ruled the darkness now hesitated at the edge of the flame. For the first time in the history of our line, the dark had a border, and we drew it. And something extraordinary happened inside that circle of light. It didn't just protect us, it changed us. The anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied a living hunter-gatherer people, the Yuhuansi of southern Africa, and she did something clever. She recorded what people talked about by day and what they talked about by night around the fire. The difference was staggering. In the daytime, most talk was practical. Complaints, gossip, arguments over resources, plans for hunting. Only about 6% of daytime conversation was stories. But at night, by firelight, 81% of the talk was stories. Around the fire, in the safe circle carved out of the fear, humans became storytellers. They talked about people who weren't there, about spirits, about ancestors, about the far off and the imagined. The firelight gave us the first safe darkness, and in that safe darkness we invented the imagination as we know it. Myth, religion, the habit of picturing what cannot be seen. Think about that. The same darkness that filled your ancestors with terror is also the darkness that gave them story. Fear built the wall. Fire opened a window, and you are the child of both. But here is the trap, and here is why you still feel this tonight. Fire is temporary. Fire dies. Every night, the flames burned down to embers, the embers to ash, and the dark came flooding back in. The fear could never be switched off for good because the danger was never gone for good. So the fear stayed installed, always ready, always waiting for the light to fail. And now look at your own hand on that light switch again. When you flip a light on, you are not doing something modern. You are doing the oldest human act there is. You are making fire against the dark. You've just made it electric. The gesture is the same gesture your ancestors made 1,000,000 years ago, feeding a flame so the night would keep its distance. When you turn the light off, you're letting the fire die, and some ancient part of you knows exactly what that used to mean. That is why the fear didn't fade when the danger. Because think about how recent your safety is. The lion has been hunting our ancestors for millions of years. The electric light has protected you for about 150. Your locked door, your solid walls, your city that never truly goes dark, all of it is younger than a single old tree. Your body has not caught up. Evolution does not update on human deadlines. It moves across thousands of generations, and only a handful of generations have passed since the dark was genuinely trying to kill us. Inside you is a nervous system that still believes it lives on the savannah. It cannot tell the difference between your quiet bedroom and an open plain full of eyes. It only knows one rule: the light is gone. Be ready. And this is why the fear is not child, no matter how many times you've been told it is. Watch a child in the dark. Every child, in every country, on every continent, is afraid of the same thing, and no one has to teach them. You don't have to teach a toddler to fear the dark. It comes built in. That is the signature of something inherited, not learned. It is written into the species, the same way it's written into you. Even the adults who swear they've outgrown it usually haven't. In one survey of 2,000 adults, around 40% admitted they wouldn't walk through their own home at night without turning a light on. And it runs deeper than embarrassment. A team of sleep researchers led by Colleen Carney at Ryerson University tested this directly. They took people into a lab and startled them with sudden noises, some in the light, some in the dark. The poor sleepers, the ones with real insomnia, were far more easily frightened in the dark than the good sleepers. Nearly twice as many of them admitted to being afraid of the dark. Some couldn't fall asleep at all without a light or a television left on. Adults, not children, grown people, lying in safe homes, behind locked doors, unable to relax until they've lit up the room. They thought they had insomnia. What some of them actually had was an ancient alarm that never learned it was safe. So here is what I want you to do the next time you feel it. Tonight, maybe, when the light goes off and your chest tightens, when your ears sharpen and your eyes strain against the black, and part of you insists that something is there. Don't fight it. Don't be embarrassed by it. Listen to it, just for a moment, and understand what it really is. That feeling is not a defect. It is a message sent across 1,000 generations from every ancestor who survived the night. It is the eagle over town. It is the cat at the edge of the firelight. It is the smoke detector your species installed 1,000,000 years ago and never removed because it worked. It kept them alive. It kept the line unbroken. It kept it going all the way down to you. You were never afraid of the dark for no reason. You are afraid of the dark for the best reason there is. Every ancestor who wasn't afraid enough is gone, and everyone who was survived long enough to pass that fear to the next, and finally to you. So the fear in your chest tonight is not weakness. It's inheritance. It is the quiet proof that your line never once failed to make it to morning. And tonight, when you reach for the light switch, watch what your hand does.